Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting of the City of Lenoir for Tuesday, June 18th, 2019. We welcome you here this evening. Glad you could be with us. We've dodged some storms right now. We hope that this rain will stay away a little bit. We've had more than our share of it, I can tell you that. So would like to, as we start this evening, to say thank you to all of our crews and staff of our city who went out and did so many things. I tell you, I know it's been a mammoth task to pull everything back after all the storms we had over the last few weeks, and a lot of damage that we had, some sinkholes, and I know our fire, police, public work, public utilities, recreation, everybody was involved in trying to put everything back together. So we thank you for all you've done there, and still, I know there's still a lot to go, but we're much better off than we were 2 weeks ago, and hopefully this rain will hold off a little bit till we can kind of get it repaired and maybe miss it for a little bit. But thank you for all that you do to make our city the best place in the world to live, and we do appreciate that very much. So as we get started, as we normally do, we will rise for a moment of silence, and then we will remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. So please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We start our meeting tonight with, we have matters scheduled for public hearings. Our first one is a nuisance declaration ordinance. This is for 839 Creekway Drive. This hearing will be held to consider adoption of a nuisance declaration ordinance for property located at this location. This is the former Right Way drive-through, North Carolina PIN number 28405-04834, as a danger to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of inhabitants of the city, and a nuisance by the City Council in accordance with Section 12-12, subsection 15 of the Lenoir City Code. Please note, if we do approve this, staff will address the severely dilapidated building violations by demolishing the structure and removing all debris. I will open the public hearing, ask if there's anyone who would like to address the council at this time. Our planning director, thank you.
What do you do?
Well, you're public planning director.
That's true.
Jenny Wheelock, and Jenny will ask you first to address anything about this, and then we'll see if there's anyone who would like to address the council.
Okay. I mean, I think everything you have in front of you in your packets, this is one of those where we tried to get compliance from the owner and failed to get any response. They've abandoned essentially their interest in the property. We assume we've followed all the legal steps we need to follow to get here, and so now we're asking for you to approve this ordinance to declare it a nuisance and give us the teeth to be able to fix the problem on our own. We'll send them a bill for the cost of it, and if that is not paid, it will go on as a lien to the property. So you may see this in the future as a foreclosure to recoup that cost.
Okay.
But for the short term, at least, this is kind of a step to getting that side of town cleaned up, and related to our efforts with the west side development and the Over Mountain Victory Trail and all of that. We want to make sure we're putting our best face forward and keeping things safe. Happy to answer questions.
We have had a lot of complaints from that area, and
complaints.
it's well documented that there's been a lot of interest in what's going on there, and it does look very bad. Are there any questions of Jenny while she is here?
Jenny, is there any future plan for that particular site, or it's just a point of cleaning it up?
Well, because we don't have any ownership control, and we've been unable to have any conversations with the owner about what their plans are. I mean, they are unresponsive. So this would be their kind of last opportunity to speak to this board tonight and tell us what those plans are.
Yeah.
So eventually, if nothing happens and we do proceed with a foreclosure action to recoup the money that we've
Yeah.
spent, at that point, then there could be a potential purchaser and developed. I haven't looked that closely at what the permitted uses or anything would be. It's more of a blight situation we're trying to clean up.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions of Jenny? Now, we're in the public hearing. Is there anyone that would like to address the council concerning this property, 839 Creekway Drive? Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing, and I'll turn it over to council for any action, discussion on this particular nuisance declaration ordinance.
Jenny, you've done a remarkable job and continue to, and we'll see a couple more from residential later on in the
That you
meeting.
will.
But I'm glad that we're starting to get a little more aggressive on some of these commercial pieces too, because there may not be quite as many, but they're extremely visible. So I think this one's time has come, and I'll make a motion that we approve this nuisance ordinance, declaration ordinance.
Have a motion from Councilmember Purdue that we approve the nuisance declaration ordinance for 839 Creekway Drive as presented. No other discussion. I'll call for the question. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Mr. Beal is out of town on vacation, so it's the 5-0, right? 5-0 tonight. Thank you. Before we move to the next one, let's, we from the last meeting, we talked about 530 Stage Street.
Yes.
And we'd like, if you would, at this time, would you give us an update on what's going on there and kind of where we passed some things on it, but then we
Sure.
found out some more information of some things were going on that property.
Yep.
So let's catch up and see where we are.
So 530 Stage Street was another one where we had sent letters, multiple letters over the period of about 8 months, and also posted them on the property. We had had an owner sign for all of them acknowledging that they'd received them, but they had never reached out and contacted us. So we were basically at a point where we had to move forward with city abatement. We posted the property, and then after posting and after the pictures in your packet, there was a team of contractors that had come in and started renovating the building, and they removed our posted notices without contacting us to see where it was at in the process, and they did not pull permits. So we had our housing inspector, Zach Clark, along with the chief building inspector, Tom Baumgartner, went out there, did an inspection. Most of the work was aesthetic, and it does look really good. Vast improvement. I think our recommendation at this point would be to let them continue. But the county did have to put a stop work order on them because of some electrical and HVAC and plumbing work that had been done without permits. We want to make sure that any renovations of a structure that then's going to be lived in is going to be safe. We don't want it to catch fire 3 months from now and be right back where we started. So even though it seems a little weird that we're putting a stop work order on something that is an improvement, I think the long term is that they're going to work with us. I've been in contact with the owner, and they are, I guess, working on pulling those permits. I have not seen that work has restarted, so that stop work order, to my knowledge, is still in place. We do have an ordinance adopted, but what I have been doing is just holding off recording it, because there's really no point in recording it. And I think what I would like to request is that as they work through the process, as long as they continue to show, that good faith, that I would come back to this body with a request to repeal that ordinance, to just kind of clear it off the books. But for now, it is one of the tools that we have to make sure they see it through to the end. So if we could just sort of keep it, as is now, and our staff will hold it. We won't record it and see what happens in the next couple of weeks.
So the stop order was put because they had not gotten their proper permitting.
Correct.
Did
They tied some new electrical into some old electrical, and they ran HVAC, and those two things do require permits. There are some things with the house. It's an older home. They did not go in and completely renovate it. It's a lot of cosmetic work, but it's to the point where it is back up to a minimum housing standard, provided that they have done the new electrical and HVAC to code.
Okay.
So that's pretty much where we're at right now. They did close in all of the walls already with new drywall, so there may be some expense in taking that back out, but this is a company that renovates a lot of these houses and should know that these are things that require some oversight and inspection.
They probably could have saved that had they contacted everyone.
Absolutely.
At the time before this was done.
It's regrettable that they removed our posted notices, because I think that we could have handled this at a staff level and it would never have escalated up to even involving this board. That would be our normal enforcement course of action.
Okay. Anybody have any questions concerning?
Thank you for the update.
Yeah.
I was
That-
surprised the last time. we
That's the
discussed
weirdest
this.
one I've ever done, so.
Yeah, Councilmember Perkins on that. Get us abreast of that. Well, thank you for keeping up on that. and,
Absolutely.
Certainly, I know you're going to watch it till make sure
Yes.
that everything is done
Yep.
properly. So, thanks for that report. Okay, we will move on then to the, I've closed the public hearing. We've already,
Well,
we're on B. Okay, thank you. All right, B is the historic landmark ordinance. This is a hearing we held to consider approval of an ordinance designating the Lenore Cotton Mill / Bluebell Incorporated plant. This is North Carolina PIN number 27495599283 and located at 1241 College Avenue in Lenore. As a Lenore Historic Landmark pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 160A, Article 19, and this is recommended by the Lenore Historic Preservation Commission and the city staff. So I'll open the public hearing and at this time and ask if there's anyone who would like to address the council concerning this historic landmark ordinance. Yes, please come forward. If you will, give us your name and address. We know you, but
At least I'm not on the post office walls.
Wait, how do we know? How do we know?
At least last week. I'm Dottie Darcy, a resident of Lenore, and if I may tweak things just a little bit and speak to all three of those ordinances, since I would say the same thing three times. In the interest of transparency, I will tell you that my daughter is an architect specializing in historic preservation who works for the Navy in Washington, D.C. When she was home for Christmas last year, we drove down and drove around these three facilities. And from an outside look, she felt that the buildings looked to be in good condition and that they had a lot of potential for the mixed-use renovation that's being proposed. I will tell you that when I go to Baltimore to visit, she often takes me to see renovation projects around the city. And the city of Baltimore has taken a number of old factories and mills and put similar renovation projects in them. They've been very, very popular. When apartments come up in them, they're snatched up in a hurry. We know that a lot of our young professionals are looking for something perhaps a little less traditional than you and I may have looked for at that age. And with our diversifying economy in the county, I think this is an opportunity for the city to have some real exciting options to attract some of these folks to living in Lenore. And I hope that you folks will be on board with this project. I think it has a lot of positive positive potential for the city of Lenore. And thank you for taking the time to listen to me.
Thank you, Dottie. We appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Okay.
We agree with you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, is there anyone else who would like to address? Please give your name and address, if you will.
Hello, my name is Karen Baker, and I live out on Greasy Creek in the county. But I'm the pottery teacher at the Pottery Studio, so it's my neighborhood, these buildings, and
At
I've
the
been watching them
At the old
for-
Lenore High
At the old Lenore High School.
Old
you're talking-
Lenore High
okay.
School, yes,
Okay.
in the basement of the
Yes.
gym. I've been watching these, and I'm in a designated historic building, which kind of, I'm assuming that, because I don't know a lot about this, because I just saw the signs and thought I'd come to the meeting to find out what's going on with those buildings. I've always been fascinated by the freight station. If I didn't have a great studio now, I'd say, let me do it. But I've got a great studio. I don't need to take on something like that. But being in an old historic, designated historic building, there's things about that, there's rules about that, that limit what can be done to the buildings, like putting in good windows rather than changing the aluminum windows that were there when it was designated historic. So I'm just coming to say, you know, make sure what is being asked for is the right thing at the right time. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
So, anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
All right.
We appreciate it, and we can, and I will let,
And we've got 200 pages of do's and
Yes.
don'ts here.
Yeah.
You know, I was horrified when I found out that the windows in the gym can't be changed because of historic preservation.
right.
Thank you.
There's quite a few listings of items that cannot be changed.
Yeah.
You know, it's,
Yeah, yeah.
it's very extensive.
But all that, we have been taken into full consideration, I can tell you that, so thank you for that. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Roberto, I live in Lenore. I guess I have some questions. Is the concept here that you're going to renovate these buildings as historic sites and then rent them out to people to use as offices or?
Yeah.
It-
Tell you what, to answer that, well, I'm going to let our
Okay. And then
planning
my second
director come up,
question
and
is
she can
there?
kind of give you an update on what's actually happening here.
Okay. And then my second question is there going to be a cost to the taxpayers to get this done?
We'll answer that, too.
Yeah.
All right.
Welcome back, by the way.
It's been a while. So I too will sort of speak on all three and the sort of the nature of the request, and then as we go through each hearing, if there's questions specific for each building, and we can
Okay.
certainly address that. But what we've got before you tonight, it is different than the designation on the Lenore High School property. That's a National Register designation. These are local designations. There's something in the state statutes that allow you to designate certain properties that have such outstanding historic merit and are intact and that they haven't had all their original features changed, that they're worth preserving. And we know that to maintain those buildings and to maintain the historic nature of them can sometimes have an additional cost above and beyond what a newer building might cost. This local landmark designation, all three of them before you tonight, has two things. It adds teeth as far as what the regulations are with the improvements that are allowed, and it also would allow us to enforce some demolition through neglect clauses in the ordinance. The exchange for that is that there is a 50% property tax deferral for city and county taxes on these buildings as long as they remain intact and historical. So if they're damaged or the owner does inappropriate things to them or does not get the required certificates of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Commission, that benefit would go away. They're not linked to a specific renovation project. This is about the historic merit of these buildings. So the current owners of them do have some renovations in mind, and obviously that property tax deferral could help make all of the pieces fit for somebody to come in and spend big money to do the types of projects we wanted. But that's not really before the board tonight. It's really a question of, do these buildings possess the type of historic merit? And the professional consultants that have reviewed this, along with the State Historic Preservation Office, are saying, yes, they do. If you feel that that is a worthy thing to protect through this local landmark designation, then you should vote to approve these ordinances. The owner of the buildings is in the audience. If you've got questions for him as well, but pretty extensive work as far as the history and what went into this. And I wanted to provide all of that in your packet, so I apologize for the reading material you all have had. If you haven't read the whole reports, I do encourage you to read them at your leisure, because there's some fascinating stuff in there about the history of Lenoir, and they're all online on the city's website. So if any of y'all have questions about the history of the buildings, and the Bluebell report especially tells the story of all of the women factory workers, and it's really quite something that these three are still standing in Lenoir. So I think that it's pretty cool that we're doing this.
It's a testament to how much work you've put into this, and I think it's hard for the public to understand how much time and energy has gone to get to where we are right now. And Councilmember Stevens is not lying. There's 273 pages in this agenda. Normally, our agendas are like 10 pages or 12 pages. It's a book tonight because of what we're talking about. So it's like reading a story that goes and talks about the historic preservation and why we are trying to seek these types of things. So I would encourage people to definitely go onto the website. Out of all the agendas I think we've had, this is one of the, as long as I've been elected, this is one of the most detailed and interesting agendas that I've had, period. And it's taken a ton of time from your department and you to get to this point. So hats off to you guys and your team for putting this together.
If you recall, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I was standing before you at this podium with a
Yes.
nuisance declaration ordinance like we just adopted on Creekway Drive. And it was that action for the collapsing portions of the Boss Lumber plant, which now is being referred to as the Lenoir, or the
Steel
J.M.
cotton.
Bernhardt Planing Mill and Steel Cotton and Hayes Cotton, because that's really the way the main period of history for that building was. We've been working on this for a long time, and we got consultants involved, and we've had some interested developers to step up and want to purchase that property in order to save it instead of it being torn down.
Yeah.
With regards to his question, it's important to note this is privately owned, developer funded, and the cost to the taxpayers is, if I'm not mistaken, is simply the deferment or the forgiveness of the taxes.
Correct.
As long
Yes.
as those conditions are met.
Yes, so as long as they remain intact, they are not allowed to further deteriorate. Any improvements that are
Right.
made represent a real positive impact to the preservation of these buildings, along with community development. Obviously, these would be fantastic buildings to have more active uses in them. It's right where we're building the rail trail. But the property tax deferral is the public part of it.
Right.
But that deferral is small compared to what
Oh, yeah.
will be taken in
That's right.
terms of the improved buildings.
Exactly.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
And we're addressing one of our biggest need is housing. What's going
And
to happen here in this project. And
I think this is a tool to help that progress.
Right.
In and of itself, I don't think that it's the, silver bullet to do it, but I think that this is an important part of the puzzle, and it's stepping up and kind of recognizing not every old building in Lenore would elevate to this level of merit, but this tells a story of our manufacturing past, and it is a story that is told. There are not a lot of these buildings still standing. We've lost a lot of them. So preserving these 3 buildings in a campus kind of way, right adjacent to each other and next to the downtown is a real positive thing for community development goals.
Any other questions of Jenny? Yes, ma'am.
When was the freight station sold?
When was it sold?
Yeah. Because
Oh.
it belonged to the city of Lenore.
No.
No, it doesn't.
Economic development is what it said on the GIS.
It was owned by Norfolk Southern.
It was,
It
yeah, the
wasn't
railroad
sold
owned
with
it,
the
and
rest
this was
of the
purchased
rail.
directly from the railroad.
When the county purchased the railroad 20-some years ago, it was excluded from that purchase. They bought the actual rails, but the freight station was excluded. Norfolk Southern retained ownership of that.
Any other questions? Anybody else like to address the council while we're in the public hearing section? Mr. Lawson, welcome to Lenore.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, my name is York Lawson, and on behalf of my partner Tom Neiman and myself, where do I start? Well, first of all, with the 2 ladies who spoke with eloquence, I love Baltimore, and Fells Point is an inspiration for us. And to your comment about keeping things as they are, that's exactly what the standards of the National Park Service maintain. And within the Historic Tax Credit Program, those guidelines are very strict, and they're very consistent, and we operate within them. It's a 3-phase process, and we're so lucky to have a great team with the most esteemed, I feel, historic consultant in the state, kind of directing us. Now I want to start with some thanks to get this far, because everybody at the city has been pulling together on this project for in excess of 3 years. And we have an opportunity to take these 3 parcels and create a campus that will have market rate apartments, maybe in the steel, some commercial, and maybe some shops of some sort in the depot building, not undecided yet, but a commercial use of some sort. It is an opportunity zone, so investors that want to invest in small businesses, and that's possible. But it all creates community development. And what we're about is preservation, number one, because Tom and I were sent here by Preservation North Carolina 3 years ago because we wanted to find a mill that needed to be refurbished. And the Western director sent us here. And so we've been working on it. And then the second part is about community development. And but it begins with the mayor and the city manager and the city planner and everybody else in City Hall, because we're all pulling together. And but we need, this is a helpful and an integral part of all the pieces that we need to pull together to make this happen. And we're getting close. We're getting close, and just thank you for your support. So, thank you.
Thank you. And York, by the way, lives in Memphis, Tennessee, and we'll get the, for our records, we need to put that in there, so we'll take care of that. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the council on this while we're in the public hearing part of this public hearing? Okay, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing on this first, the Lenore Cotton Mill Bluebell part of it, and turn it over to council for any action concerning the historic landmark status as presented.
I'd like to make a motion. This is kind of personal. As I read through all the historical events in the documentation, my great-grandfather was an integral part of that, and I'm very proud of that. But I would like to recommend that we adopt this ordinance as presented.
Have a motion from Councilmember Stevens to adopt the historic landmark ordinance as presented. No other discussion. I'll call for the question. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That is item B. Item C is, again, a historic landmark ordinance. The hearing will be held to consider approval of an ordinance designated the J.M. Bernhardt Planning Mill and Box Factory, Steel Cotton Mill, Hayes Cotton Mill, presented as North Carolina PIN number 274965084 and located at 1201 Steel Street in Lenoir as a Lenoir historic landmark pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 160A, Article 19, as recommended by the Lenoir Historic Preservation Commission and city staff. So I'll now open this public hearing for any discussion on this second piece of this particular area pertaining to this. Everything we talked about in the first one applies to this one. So if there's anything different we can tell you or talk about, we'll be glad to, but it's, this is all three different pieces all in that site that are being designated as historic landmark in the ordinance. So I'll open the public hearing. Yes, ma'am.
Is that the same owner?
Yes, ma'am.
Same owner, and who is the owner besides this gentleman?
Uh,
Does he have a business name?
Mr. York Lawson and Mr. Tom Neiman are partner developers of this particular, and York, I'm not sure I know all the name that you go under.
Are we talking about steel? The steel building is still in the hands of trust, family trust, and we're, while we're working on it, we're paying option payments on it. The other two are, we own, the Bluebell and the freight station we own. The Bluebell's the first one to go, phase one, and then we'll begin, the other one's in worse shape, and so we're starting that kind of second.
So, but what is the name of your company?
We're
You don't have
Back and
to.
forth between them.
We'll just, we need to direct everything
Yeah, it
to
needs to
the
come through
council.
here.
That's okay. That's okay. Thank you. We'll answer those questions if you need to, but if you need to come up, you'll have to come up and ask the questions, and then we can answer.
It's a valid question. It's
Yeah.
a good question.
Very good questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The-
Jenny, you want to clarify some of that?
Sure. If we're on the J.M. Bernhardt Planing Mill and Box Factory,
Yes.
sort of commonly known as Boss Lumber, it is owned by the James Sullivan Irrevocable Trust. That owner is not present tonight, but I do have a signature on file from him authorizing that we move forward with all of this.
Okay.
The other two properties are owned by LLCs that are managed by Mr. Lawson.
Right. Thank you. That clears that part of it up. She said she didn't quite hear that. Would you tell that just a little louder for Jenny?
I didn't hear that word.
He's the manager of that.
He's the manager of that. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions concerning this particular property, the Cotton Mill, Bluebell building? Nope.
Nope.
We're on the, thank you. J.M. Bernhardt Planting Mill and Box Factory, the Steel Cotton Mill. Thank you. We're on the second one. Okay, seeing no one else with comments, I'll close the public hearing, turn it over to council for any discussion, comments, or motions.
Make a motion, we approve?
The motion from Mayor Pro Tem Willis that we approve the historic landmark ordinance for the second piece, which I'll call the Steel Cotton Mill, Hayes Cotton Mill, as it is right now. No other discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That finishes that one. Now, the last public hearing is also a historic landmark ordinance to consider approval of the ordinance designating the Carolina and Northwestern Railways Freight Station, which is North Carolina PIN number 274545715, and located at 1407 College Avenue in Lenoir, as a Lenoir Historic Landmark pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes, Chapter 160A, Article 19. It is also recommended by the Lenoir Historic Preservation Commission and city staff. And that is the freight station that is located in between the two mills there on College Avenue. I'll open the public hearing. If there's anyone who would like to address the council concerning this particular property, again, everything we've been talking about in the prior two are also involved here moving forward. So, seeing no one this time, I'll close the public hearing and turn it over to council for any discussion and/or action.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion from Councilmember Thomas to approve the historic landmark ordinance for the Carolina and Northwestern Railway Freight Station as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much for all those. Thank you for, there will be more coming to that as we continue to move forward. We thank you for your understanding of these particular issues, and we think it's all good things moving forward for our city and something we desperately need to move forward with. Okay, we'll move on then to consent agenda items. Tonight, this consists of minutes of the City Council meeting of Tuesday, June 4th, 2019. Item B are minutes of our Committee of the Whole meeting of Tuesday, May 28th, 2019. Item C are will be the approval of minutes of the closed session, minutes of the City Council meeting of Tuesday, May 21st, 2019, as reviewed by the City Council, the City Manager, and the City Attorney. Item D is the FY 2018-2019 Budget Amendment Ordinance. These are amendments to the 18-19 Budget Amendment Ordinance as follows. 1, adjustments to the general fund with a zero net effect to fund balance. Number 2 are adjustments to the Water Enterprise Fund with a zero net effect to the fund balance. Number 3 are adjustments to the Bernhardt Water Treatment Plant project with a zero net effect to fund balance. And number 4, funds transfer for Fire Station 3 as submitted. Item E is an amendment for the Fire Station 3 capital project budget ordinance. This is a revised capital project budget ordinance for Fire Station 3 in the amount of $60,000. Note this change is a result of lowering the original loan amount from $1,360,000 to $1,300,000 as recommended by the Local Government Commission, or the LGC, and the City of Lenoir's auditor. This change is to account for the prepayment of the loan match from the Blue Ridge Electric Membership Corporation. And staff further recommends that council grant authority to the city manager and to the mayor to take actions necessary to amend all related documents to include in the deed of trust and all other recorded documents. Item F is a capital project budget ordinance closeout. This is for the Bernhardt Water Treatment Plant improvements, and this would be for the approval of the capital project budget ordinance to close out the capital project budget ordinance for the Bernhardt Water Treatment Plant improvements project. Note, this project was complete as of June of 2019 with total expenditures of $5,718,458.59, and the project finished under budget by $938,841.41. The original local funding amount needs to be increased by $12,817 due to the non-reimbursable invoices. You've heard the items from the consent agenda item. I will open for any discussion and/or motions.
How did you come in on 938,000 under? Which is great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's just 16% of the project or more.
A big part of that had to do with us moving some items from that project, taking them out of the project and moving them into the project that's currently still underway.
Okay.
Paving, for example. There was no need to pave when we had another contractor still out there digging holes and cutting trenches through the asphalt. So that was that was a part of it, but there were just other changes that we made inside the contract that were able to net out a fair amount of money for us.
Great.
Fantastic.
And that's an SRF project, state revolving fund loan, so that was just, less money we needed to borrow to complete the project.
Good.
Good work.
That was one of the
Yeah.
things. Use it somewhere else.
Any other questions concerning the consent agenda items?
I make a motion the consent agenda be approved.
Have a motion from Councilmember Purdue that the consent agenda items as presented, A through F, be approved. No other discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Thank you. Appreciate that. We will move on then. It is now a time on our agenda for, if there's anyone in the audience, request of any petitions of any citizens. If there's anyone who would like to address the council from the audience, this is the time to do so. And seeing no one, we will then move on. We do not have reports of our boards and commissions this evening, so we'll move on to the report and recommendations of the city manager, Mr. Hildebrand.
Mayor, Council, I have tonight for you a number of items for information. The first is the Moon June music that was rained out a couple weeks ago will be held Friday night. The band Fractured will perform on the square at 6 p.m. till 7:30, and then the Chad Triplet Band will perform from 8 till 10 on the square. Fabulous Film Night scheduled for Saturday, June 22nd with the movie Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and that's being shown at 8:30 on the square. The planning board will meet on Monday, June 24th at 5:30, and that will be held at City Hall, 3rd floor. Committee of the whole meeting will meet on Tuesday, June 25th at 8:30 a.m., and that will be held 3rd floor, City Hall. The ABC board will meet on Thursday, June 27th at 2 o'clock, and that's going to be held at Lenore Store Number 1. A Summer Music Madness concert will be held on Friday, June 28th at 7 p.m. to 10 with Cassette Rewind performing on the square. The annual Firecracker 10K, 5K race will be held on Saturday, June 28th, beginning at 8 o'clock, and that's at the Lenore Soccer Complex. Mr. Rohr and Mr. Purdue, I expect both of you to attend that.
There.
10K.
Just to look on, you don't have to run.
No, I'm doing the 10K.
Yeah, I'll be doing it.
There you go. Dedication ceremony for the new Charters of Freedom will be held, I guess, at on the square there next to the historic courthouse on Wednesday, July 3rd at 9 a.m. That's being, I guess, coordinated through Foundation Forward, Inc., a nonprofit educational organization, 501c3 that builds Charters of Freedom settings in local communities around the country. And that'll, of course, be the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. And so encourage folks to come out for that. City offices will be closed on July 4th in observance of Independence Day. Also, we'll have a July 4th celebration at Mulberry Rec on Thursday, July 4th at 5 o'clock to 10 p.m. Fireworks are scheduled to begin at 9:30. Additional information can be found on the city's website. Also, there'll be a cruise-in on Saturday, July 6th from 4 to 8 in downtown Lenore. And lastly, I have the 4th Annual Community Music Festival is going to be held on Saturday, July 27th from 6 to 11 p.m. at the Martin Luther King Center, and the public is invited to attend. Any questions on those numerous items going on?
No, glad.
Yeah, it's busy.
We do have a couple items for this council action tonight, and I know one item that I think Mr. Perkins will have to be recused from, if you want to do that first, and then we'll...
Yes, this is a purchase of real property, and since Mr. Councilmember Perkins is the minister of Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church making the offer, then we would need to recuse him from recuse him from being a part of this.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to recuse.
We have a motion to excuse him, is that what you said? We have a motion from Councilmember Stevens to recuse Councilmember Perkins from this activity. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
I stand accused.
Thank you. You stand accused.
Mayor, Council, as you recall, last meeting, we received an offer from Mount Pilgrim Baptist Church to acquire property, the old community gardens on Bell Street, for $2,500, and that is NC Pen 27495-84440. We did the legal advertisement on that on Friday, June 7th, and the 10-day upset bid period is over, and the city received no additional bids. So if council wants to proceed with selling the property, you may do so tonight with approval of the ordinance.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation from the city manager and city staff concerning this. All the legal things were met, 10-day period. Tax parcel listing is also in there for your information. So I will open the council if there's any discussion. If not, motion for the purchase of this property.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
We have a motion from Councilmember Thomas to approve the purchase as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. That would be 4-0 with Mr. Perkins.
Mr. Perkins is back now.
Okay.
We need to put it back
We have
on.
to vote him back in.
I don't think so. It was just applicable to that one vote, so
Okay.
I think you're back in.
Thanks, sir.
Back.
Okay.
Do we have to?
I knew you'd say that.
Tonight, you have before you an order of abatement for 1252 Fairview Drive. This is parcel ID 06185-2-5, NC Pen 27484-73098, directing staff to proceed with demolition and removal of the structure located at that property. Ms. Wheelock, do you want to give any further information?
This is a property that caught fire. It's a total loss. The owners had started to fix it up and then sort of abandoned progress and then started bringing more things onto the site and really creating a problem. We have been unable to get owner compliance, so at this point, we're asking you to adopt this ordinance, giving us the authorization to go in and clean up the site, demolish it. Our costs will be applied to the property as a tax lien. If the owner doesn't pay them, we'll bill them first, but it would be able to be recouped through tax foreclosure at a later date.
Okay. You heard the announcement or whatever from. Recommendation, thank you, from the city manager for the order of abatement for 1252 Fairview Drive. And you've heard the information concerning that project at this time. So I'll open to council, any discussion and/or motions.
Make a motion for the order of abatement.
We have a motion from Councilmember Purdue for the order of abatement as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. That is back 5-0.
Mayor, Council, another order of abatement. This is for 213 Sunset Street. Parcel ID 09191-1-35, and it's also NC Pen number 284-094-2290. And this would direct staff to proceed with demolition and removal of the structure. Ms. Wheelock.
This is another fire. This is really something that is devastating. So we get these houses that catch fire and they burn out and they then are unable to be repaired. This is one where we don't have an owner who's living. We have made every attempt to try to contact somebody that would be related that would come in and tear it down. We've been unsuccessful, ran an ad in the paper as we're required to do under our ordinance. Now we're asking for this ordinance in order to give us permission to go on and we're going to tear down the house. This is at the gateway of Sunset Manor Mobile Home Park. That's actually one of our nicer parks. That owner is very cooperative and always keeps it up pretty well. Lots of kids, and it's just sort of, there's the gateway. This may be a property that we would be able to have sold if we were to pursue a foreclosure at a later date. The cost will go on as a lien, but we have not been able to find anybody that would be willing to try to take it with the structure standing. So for the public health and safety reasons, we want to go ahead and abate it, but it may be before you in the future as another action. Happy to answer any questions.
You've heard the recommendation from the city manager of the order of abatement for 213 Sunset Street and the information concerning that. Are there any questions concerning it all? If not, I will open it up for a motion.
So moved.
Motion from Mayor Pro Tem Willis that we approve the order of abatement for 213 Sunset Street as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Carries unanimously.
Thank you, guys.
That's
Thank
all I
you.
have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Anything from the city attorney tonight?
No, sir.
What a thing. Man, we were waiting for a good recommendation. I was
I'm a man of few
vacation.
words.
Oh, God. A man of few words.
Not true.
The vacation was very nice, thank you.
Good.
It was relaxing.
I'm glad you enjoyed it very much. Okay, I do have a couple of recommendations for appointments to our Lenore Tourism Development Authority, as we call it, the LTDA. My recommendation, and this was presented at our June 4th City Council meeting, would be Mrs. Brenda Floyd. Brenda is the director of the J.E. Broadhill Caldwell Community College catering service there, and of course that is very much involved in tourism and things in our community. And Mrs. Summer Combs, who is the general manager of the New Hampton Inn here in Lenore, and they'd be recommended for serve a 4-year term on this board. As you know, the board for this has certain criteria that we have to meet, and some of those would be that we have people who actually are providing the funding for this be a part of this board, so that we are bringing that up to date with those. I have spoken with both. They both have very much interest in being involved, so I would make that as a recommendation.
Both of these are excellent choices. My question is, are they filling vacant seats that were there, or are they replacing other? They're vacant? Okay.
Yes.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Willis. We approve the recommendations as presented. No other discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Thank you very much. And anything from our city council members tonight? Mr. Willis, anything? You were gone to the league. Was anything coming up there?
I have a couple of things. The North Carolina League of Municipalities, I sit on the board of directors and was there last week. A couple of updates. I was trying to get them to go over here earlier in the meeting. I'll just do it from my phone. They talked a little bit about the budget, the state budget coming through. The state budget is going to be a partisan battle, so they really don't know what's going to happen. Yeah, can you?
It was announced.
It's a battle, yeah. And so, at 4 o'clock, so I didn't check that. Normally I'm on top of that. The league has taken a very active approach in making sure that broadband throughout, especially our rural communities, it gets to communities that don't have connection. That is looking very well. They've been very strong advocates of getting internet connections, high-speed internets to rural. That is looking very good. They're excited about what's going on there. And basically what they're wanting is to allow municipalities to kind of do dig once initiatives, not be the providers of the service, but maybe help facilitate if the developments are being built, that we could put the conduit in and work with providers, more of a true public-private partnership type of deal. That bill, I believe, passed the House, and they're working to do that in the Senate. We'll probably see more of that coming in the next year. Lots of, there was a co-op broadband bill that they were excited about, which is great, great news for some of our local co-ops. They talked a lot about the privatization of alcohol and ABCs. That's going to be a very interesting battle. I think right now you're going to see it stalled. I think there's a lot of opposition to that. There was a talk about flat taxes, but they didn't know how monies were going to be dispersed. Very long story there, but that is in the talks within the legislation that the league found that they're keeping an eye on. Police and body cameras, also another popular bill that is being discussed about who gets to view videos when there is an incident. They're talking about forming a public committee where you have not just elected officials, the manager, of course, would be on there, but there'd also be members from the public that would be formed of a committee that would be predetermined, that would be on it, that would sit on that. This is mainly in our larger cities that they have a lot of these body camera incidences, but this would be implemented statewide. And so they're trying to, I think the argument has always been who gets to view it. And is it going to be just the police department? And that's definitely police need to be in there, but then they're like, does the city council get to view it? Does just the manager get to view it? Does just the attorney get to view it? And so this kind of pushes where everybody has a voice And then you have some community input from a pre-selected group, that people that want to be actively engaged in making sure that that type of thing. That bill is in process. If you're interested in it, it's Senate Bill 619. Those were the main ones that I'm talking about. Of course, they talked about the retirement system and the monies and all of that. That we just need to be prepared. And I think the city, we did in our budget and with our things, that we know that those monies are going to have to, with our retirement system for our employees, we've got to continue to add that. That's going to be an extra cost added to our budgets moving forward, not just with us, but with all cities across the state. And so it was interesting. There's a lot going on. A ton of money, a ton of bond money just released for DOT, probably some of the most monies that ever released by the state for DOT project. I mean, close to $1 billion was just released, I believe, last week for DOT projects. You're going to see a lot happening here in the state. So it was really good updates, a good conference. It was very torturous because we were sitting right there in Wilmington, right outside the river there, and just had to look at it all day and sitting in a cold room for almost 10 hours. So it's tough.
That's life when you're making the big bucks.
It is, but it was well worth it. So if anybody has any questions, just let me know. I'd be happy to explain in more detail.
Good. Appreciate that and appreciate the update. A lot of things are going on across the state for right now. And as we said, the Senate and the House and the governor are all in the budget talks, and it's not going very well right now. So we'll see how that transpires over the next few weeks as we get closer to July 1 and then forward. There are a lot of things going on this summer. I hope you will come out the next 2 weekends. It's busy with, we had to reschedule the Swingin' Wingin' Moon in June to this week. And then there's another concert and everything next week. Right after that, we do have the celebration for our Charters of Freedom, and I hope everyone can be a part of that. That's really something we're very proud of. Our Public Works Department and the Caldwell County School System all took a great part of that. We're the only municipality, the only county that had people that did those kind of things with this Charters of Freedom. So we're very honored to be a part of that. So we hope you'll come out and do that. You still have a chance if you'd like to purchase a paper to be a part or whatever. You can still do that and be involved in that if you'd like to. Those are still available. Right after that, the Blackberry Festival is there, July 11th, 12th, and 13th. So that's right around the corner. So there'll be a lot going on again in downtown. We have another event, I think, in late July with the film things are all going on. And then Harambe Festival is the first week in August. So you can't say there's not anything going on in downtown or the city of Lenoir in the summer of 2019, because there are plenty of things that will be there happening. So hope you come out and enjoy all those and all that. We don't meet again till the 16th of July. So everyone have a great 4th of July. Have great vacations if you haven't gone on them yet. And anyway, we'll see y'all soon. Anything else to come before us?
Thank you.
If not, we stand adjourned.